All right, sure.
No worries. Thank you.
Okay, so let's see. Let's create like a list cars view so that we can see like all the cars listed in order for a specific brand. Um, so let's just make that like whatever the brand ID is slash cars. So in the Chrome browser, it's actually just gonna look like brand local host 1000 and then brands. And then whatever the brand ID is, let's just say it's one and then slash cars. That's what it's gonna look like. And that points to the list cars function view slash view. Let's just define that in the views. All right, list cars. Oh, I have that down there, but let's do it again. If we go back to URLs, we see that it takes in brand ID as a parameter. So let's just do that. The size request, of course. Okay. And then we want to somehow get all of the cars that belong to this brand ID. So let's just first get the brand first using the helper method that we wrote above to get the specific brand. By brand ID. So we're just getting the brand object itself or the model, if you want to call it that, by the brand ID. And then using that, we're going to get all the cars that belong to that particular brand. And the reason why we can do this is because in the models, I defined, so I created like a foreign key, right? For each car object, and that like points to the brand model. So every car belongs to one brand, but one brand can contain many cars. So that's the relationship there. So yeah, using that, we can just get all the cars that belong to that brand. So let's just do brand.cars. We can do brand.cars because in the models, in here, right? When we created the foreign key, we had the related name of cars. And that's so that from another model that relates to car, we can call that model dot cars. And then that would point to the car model itself. Brand.cars all. So this line right here is going to get all the cars that belong to a particular brand, right? And then finally, just pass that in as context so that we can render it in the template. Okay, and then let's do return render. We have the request, we need the request there, and then whatever the template is. So let's just create like a list cars template. I'm already created here, but I'm just gonna delete that. List cars. Okay. Why that's red. Okay. So that would be cars. Okay. And then we finally pass in the context. Just, yeah, remember in the render method, just 3 parameters. The request, the template that you want to go to, and then the concept that you're passing in, the things that you want accessible in whatever this template is. So, all right, so we have list cars, and let's define that. Let's make this extend off of base.html as well, like all of the other templates. That's right. And then let's in the base, we can see that we override 2 things, the title and the content. So the title of this can be whatever the brand name is. So let's do like block title. And then put the brand name. So, and then what did we pass in the contexts? Well, we passed in the brand object as context. So we have that accessible inside the HTML template. There's like this. Okay. So we can call brand.name. Oh, I thought this was React, so I will put one angle braces. So in Django, you need two. All right, and then let's override the block content this time. Okay, and then right here we want to have like a list of all of the cars that belong to a particular brand, and we already got all of those objects using our Python code, and we pass that into the template. So all we have to do is just loop through cars and then print them. So let's do a for loop for car and cars. And it should like link to the car page itself. So I'm just gonna make it an A tag. And then the name of the A tag should be the car's name, which is car.name. And then the URL it points to, for now, let's just make it the same page, which is just signified by the hashtag. And then if we go to list cars, if you go to this URL, we'll see the changes that we implemented. So, okay, it's not there. Why is it not there? Oh, we gotta do slash cars. All right, there you go. So we have the brand name and all of the cars that belong to that particular brand. We click on it, redirects to the same page because we put a hashtag there, but we can implement that. So let's go to that HTML file. So this file represents this page, and then let's change this so that it actually points to whatever car that we're referring to. So let's make it a URL. And then if you go into urls.py and see what we named that, we see that we named it as show car. So we can put show car in here. And then what parameters do we pass in? We see that what's inside the angle greater than or equal to signs is brand ID and car ID. So we need those two. We need to pass in those two in the URL. So brand ID equals brand ID and car ID equals car ID. And we have like brand and car accessible because we pass those in as context in the function view itself. So now if we do this and we click on it, it goes to the actual car page itself. And that's how I implemented like the nested CRUD, just the reading part. Right. Does anyone have a question?
You go over the like the CSRF token stuff?
Oh, that's just like for forms, like you just need that for security reasons, as far as I know.
Oh,
Just pop that in where you have a form tag, right? Inside that, you just pop that CSRF underscore token, and then it's gonna work. Otherwise, it won't work.
okay, that makes more sense. I was like super confused on like what a CSRF token was, but yeah, if it's just for a form, then cool.
Yeah, you just popped it in a form. So yeah, I created like forms to create like a brand and a car, and inside the form tag, you just pop that in. Oh, yeah. Should I do like the other parts of CRUD besides the R? Or what should I do?
I've got a question. So yesterday we went over authentication, and in the tutorial for that, it covers like you have like a base directory level, like templates folder with like a base HTML and everything like that for the login process. So when you have like a base directory template folder, I guess I'm a little like lost on how you like how do you implement that and still have like the app level like templates folder, because you have like two bases. Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
yeah.
Um, as far as I know, if you have like a different templates folder like outside, right? So independent of the app itself,
Yeah.
then you
Yeah.
have another template inside the app. Those two both, like you should have access to all the files inside both of the template folders. And if you want to call like the base template of the app, you go inside the app and then slash base instead of just doing. So if you have like a base here, if you want to call the base from the like the project templates, you do just base. But if you want to call the base from the cars and brands app, you would do cars and brands slash base.html. As far as I know. Does that sound right, Tom? Oh, you're muted by the way. But Tom was muted. Tom, you're muted. Oh, was talking. Oh, never mind.
Still muted.
But yeah, as far as I know, it's just like whatever you name templates, you should have both of those accessible. Does, does that answer your question or did I not?
Yeah, it's just like, I mean, yeah, I get that they'd both be accessible, but then you have two bases. To me, it just makes sense like to have one base, if that kind of makes sense. Like if you go to a website and you're not logged in yet, you're still kind of like on the homepage, right? So if we're looking at like cars and brands, you're probably going to be looking at the same page, and then you just probably have like a header with like log in, log out stuff, and you probably can't get to like subsequent pages until you log in, right? So like when I think about it like that, it's like, okay, should everything extend off of like the base directory level template then in that case, or is it just used for authentication, I guess? And then if so, it's like the tutorial was using like class-based views instead of like function-based views and stuff. And so I guess I know cars and brands doesn't cover all of that,
Yeah.
but yeah, I don't know. I'm a little confused on how you would like implement all of that into one thing, I guess.
Yeah, I'm not very familiar with authentication either myself, but yeah, I would agree with you that having one base makes more sense than having two or multiple. Because I don't see a reason why you would have multiple bases. And then what was the other thing you said?
And the tutorial for the 14th on the curriculum, it like it was using like class-based
Oh yeah.
views. And that's the only time we've used them. So I don't know. I wasn't sure if it's like, do you use those going forward if you're using like a base directory level? Like when do you use class-based views versus like function-based views, I guess?
So you can use either or. They're like, we just do it via methods just because it's easy to teach, but you can they have class-based views as well. You will see them not going forward, but you will see them in the future using like authentication. But if you're familiar with class-based views, go ahead and use them, but they're not like, they're almost like a little easier to use, but it's just a different syntax. But you don't need to use them.
Yeah, I just use them in the sign up thing, like for creating the sign up page, because that's how the tutorial on the curriculum page did it. So I just copied and pasted that. Didn't really understand class-based views though.
Yeah, class-based view is just a view that, whatever.
So,
what is it?
so if I wanted to have a base directory template for like the login, logout, authentication and stuff, would I then just in the app URLs and views just basically, or in the HTML just extend that like that base HTML? Does that make sense? What I'm asking, like in Juan's directory right now, he's got templates just in his app. But if I wanted to have like the template, like the base just be in the base directory templates, could I then just extend like that base HTML into all of those other templates that are in the app folder?
You should be
Yeah.
able to do that.
So you can do that by going to settings
Right, and then you do
then-
the directory. Yeah, okay,
and then
Right
go
there.
to DIRs and then do like
okay.
os.path.join and then put base dir in there slash and then comma templates. So that's how you do that. But the template inside your app folder should still be accessible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you look, I made a pull request on the Django meetup app,
Okay,
and I believe that also uses, because it uses authentication and all, like user will sign up and stuff, but it also uses the templates. It's like an older one. It has the base directory, the syntax is a little bit different just because it's an older version of Django, but it's essentially the same. And then inside of my meetup app, it also has templates.
okay, I'll look at that. Thank you.
Yeah, and feel free to clone that and just run it and see if it works or whatever, and just. Yeah.
Anything you guys want me to show or any questions?
This is really helpful though.
There was it?
I was saying this was really helpful. I don't have anything.
Yep.
Oh, thanks. Yes, we can. I mean, the API group project for today is pretty helpful, but if you want to stick around, I guess I can do the C and the U and the D part of how cars are brands. Does that sound good?
Yep. I'm gonna stick around for that.
All right. Okay. So currently we have. So we can go to brands to see /brands to see all the brands, right? Click on a particular brand. And then this should point to the list of cars for that brand. So we don't have that. So let's just put that in there. So show brand, it should be in show brand, right? And then inside the content. Let's just put show a list of whatever the brand name is. And then just put the list of all the cars, which is we named it as list cars. So let's put list cars in there. And then parameters it takes in, well, if you go to the URL, it only takes in brand ID as a parameter. So let's put in brand ID equals brand.id because in this file we have brand accessible. So if you reload this, you can click on this and then see all of the cars that belong to Hyundai. So, okay, so we have the R part, we can read all of the cars. Let's do the create part, so the C. And then let's create a path for that. So new path. And then we're gonna have, because we're creating a new car, we want to go under /cars, which makes sense, and then /new. So because we want to create a new car, let's do views that create a car form. Just name that create car. Or let's just name the view create car as well for consistency. Go in the views, right? And then create a new function view called create car. And then what parameters are we going to take in for create car? We're going to take in brand ID. So in here, we want to like have a form that we show to users and then process that form to create a new car object inside the database. So let's just do that. Okay, so I created this car form.html, right? And that is what we're going to show to the users to create a new car. Let me just see this. Okay, so let's just code that from scratch. So car form.html. So we're going to display that to the users. It's like a form for creating a new car. So we're going to extend off of the base HTML like we did for all the other files. Okay.
What
and
is
then
that
we're gonna
extension?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm
What's
sorry. What is that extension that you use for that like auto completion for the extends and all the weird things?
It's this one, Django by Baptiste Darthenay.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yep. Yeah, it's very convenient. And then if we go to the base again, we see we override. Oh, that's in the templates. So we gotta delete. That was just for example. For showing. Okay, so this is the actual base. We can override the title and the contents. So let's just first override the title. So block. So let's call this like car form. And then let's override the content. And then inside that, we're gonna have a form. So we can call the form HTML tag. We don't need any action. We need the method though, because upon the submission of this form, we're gonna post it so that we can actually add stuff to our database. So inside that form, we're gonna have an input field of type text. And let's see, what else do you need in there? I think that's it, right? Oh no, that Django should automatically create a form for you, so you can just do like let's see.
It'll be like form like .asp or something like that.
Can I just do this? And then we have like a submit button. Well, how do I know that form belongs to the car object? Oh, we just create it in the Python itself and then pass it in as form. Okay, so yeah, let's just do this later after we actually do the Python part. That would make more sense. So, okay, to create a form, you need like a if else structure, right? So first check if request.method is post. And then else do something else. So what this is doing is basically it's checking, did the user press the submit button? And if they press the submit button, it's gonna be, the method of that is gonna be a post because we defined it right here in the form tag. So did the user press the submit button? If so, we're gonna do something, but before we do that, let's just display the form. So if user didn't press submit, if the user didn't press submit, they want to see the form so they can create a new car. So let's do that. And Django has like model form, which lets you create forms based on models. And that's inside forms.py. Okay, so I already have this, but let's just comment the dots. Let's create like a new car form to create a new car. And then that every form would just extend off of like model form, unless it's some other kind of form that doesn't, where you're not creating a new model, but in this case, we are creating a new model of car. So we want to extend off of model form. Okay, and then in the form, we want to have like the class meta. And then inside that, we want to put in what things we want included inside the form. So, or first we want to specify what model this form points to. So we do model equals car because we're creating a new car. And if you need this import statement here to have car accessible, which I already imported from my models. And then we want to do fields equals and then have an array and then whatever you want, whatever input fields you want to be on that car form. If you go back to the models.py, you see that a car has a name and a brand. So let's make those available in that form. So and go back to the forms.py, let's have name and car in the field that we want. Okay, so I think that should be good. We have that car form ready. And if you go back to the views, I believe you can just do like a form equals car form. And then that would just create like a blank form with nothing in it. And then we just render that, return render inside the HTML. And that's where you do like form.asp. So let's render that. You need the request and then whatever the template is, which in this case it's car form. So you go to cars and brands / car form. HTML. Okay, and then we want to pass in context again. And right here, let's just set the context to be just the form. We want to pass in the form to the HTML template so that we have that accessible. So let's just name that form. Set that as the variable form. Okay. If we do that and do brand /to/new, okay, we don't see a form. Because a known field specified for a car. It seems like it's in the models or forms. A known field, so name and the car. Oh, this should be brand, not car. Okay, rerun the server. Oh, we have to do /car/. Okay, so we have the car form there. Now we want to actually go in the HTML and display the form. And the way we do that is, well, if you go back to the views.py, we passed in the form as context as the third parameter. And form is just the empty car form that we created in forms.py. So in the car form, that HTML, we have form accessible. So we can just call that and then do as p. but you can also do like as table as well and put that inside a table tag. But let's just do as P for now. And then if we reload that, should be a nice car form. And you see we have name and brand there. And we can have a drop down of all the car brands that exist. And the reason why we have these two fields is because in the models or in the forms.py, we defined the two fields. We defined name and brand. So that's why we have name and brand here. So, but this form, there's no way to submit. There's no submit button. So let's just add a button and then name that submit. I think that's. Oh, wait, we need like type. or
Type submit.
Type submit. Okay, so that should work. So now we're displaying the form properly, but if we press submit, nothing's gonna happen because we didn't really define what's gonna happen if they submit. So this first part is like if user presses submit. Let's just define that. So first, let's see. If the user presses submit, we want to get the data in the car form. So let's do like oh yeah, we can do car form, and then inside that we can have the request at post, and request that post is just the post data from the form. So whatever you enter in will be represented by request that post, and then that would be just passed into the car form. And then let's just name that form as well. And then we want to check if that form is valid or not. I don't know if you actually need this, but I think it's good practice to have it. So if form that is valid, and then let's just process data if the form is valid. So if it's valid, I'm going to save the form. And what this is doing is we're saving that what you entered in actually into the database, actually into the table inside Postgres. That's what that save is doing. And then after we save, we can redirect to what we created. So whatever car we created, let's just redirect to that. So return redirect. The redirect, you don't need to pass in request. You do need to pass in what URL you're going to go to next. So if you go to urls.py, we want to show like the particular car that we created. So we defined show car URL to show that. So let's do show car in there. Show. And then so for redirect, you pass in all the parameters just separated by commas. So in here, we see that we have brand ID parameter and car ID. So we pass those in. ID equals. We already have brand ID that we passed in here. So we have that accessible, and then car ID. Car ID is oh, okay. So what we can do is when you're saving the car to the database, we can set that to a car variable. So we can actually call its ID when we put it in the redirect function. So we can do car.id. And then that should work and should show the car that we created. So let's see if that works. Okay. Name. Kona. Submit. Oh, yeah, and then that's the CSRF token that Reno was talking about. If you don't have that, you're gonna get this forbidden 403 response. Just in the HTML inside the actual form tag, just pop in the CSRF. Then now, if we do that form again, there we go. we see like the new car that was created. And if we go back to Hyundai and show a list of all of them, Kona is there. So that's the C part of the CRUD. Okay, any questions so far? Okay. Guess I'll do the update part because delete part's easy. Say that for last.
Is it possible to take like a 5-minute break?
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, I'll just resume in 5 minutes, I guess.
What time you got?
You can pause the recording.
Oh, okay. Okay, so we're able to create a new car by doing car/new, but we can't update the car that exists. It just stays this way. So let's implement a way to update the car. So that first, whenever you're creating a new component, just start with the URLs. Let's create a new URL for editing a car. So let's just make that like this time. Let's just make it like brand / whatever the brand ID is / cars, whatever the car ID is / edit. Let's just make it like that. Okay, and then that URL would point to views.edit car. And then let's just name that edit car so we can have that available. So let's go to views.edit car and actually implement the logic to edit the car. So def edit car, create a new function view called edit car, put in the request in there. And then as you can see, if we go back to the URL, we have two parameters. We have the brand ID and the car ID. So let's put that inside the function parameters brand ID and the car ID. Okay. And then implement logic to editing the car. So editing stuff is pretty similar to creating stuff. So I'm just gonna copy the code that I have from create car, paste it back in there, and go from there. So, all right, so if the user didn't press submit yet, we want to display the form to the user. But this time we want like, so we're editing a car, right? So in the form, we show like name and then we show like brand, right? But we want those pre-filled out because we're editing a car, not creating a new one. And in order to do that, you just pass in like the instance of the car. But to first do that, we need the actual car objects. So we need to get the object, and we have like a method to do that. Get car, which just returns the car object if you pass in a car ID as a parameter to that function.
So how does the HTML form, how does it know which form to choose from? Whether the car forms or the brand form? How does it know which form?
Okay, so
which
going back to the create car, right? We on line 79, we created car form. Or no, line 84, we just called car form. So that's how it knows it's referring to the car. And then we put that inside a dictionary and then we pass that in the render function as a third parameter. So this contexting variable right here, it contains like the car form. That's how the HTML, if you go to the HTML, it calls form, and the form is what we passed in as context, and form is a car form, and so that's how it knows it's a car form. Does that make sense?
but we use the same method for the brand form too. So how does it differentiate between which form we were referring to, because we didn't like how do I say it, like cite or instantiate anything relating to the form, to the car form in our HTML file. So we only reference the title form, and we use the same title for the car form and the brand form. So I don't know, how does it, I did mine, but it worked anyways, but I don't know how I was able to know which form we were actually trying to get, because I didn't like reference anything relating to this car form in the HTML file. So I just used form as table, and then it was able to get it, but I don't know. I just don't know how it was able to like differentiate between which form, which of the form I was referring to.
Well, you're passing in the car form as a parameter in the render function. So in the car form.html, you would have this form variable would refer to car form because you're passing that in as context.
I think I understand now. So the render, that's what the render function does. So it just the link. Oh, I see.
Yeah, so whatever you want accessible inside the HTML template, you pass that in as a third parameter. And that
So
has
we
to
are
be a dictionary.
like the HTML file in the render function. So it's gonna post that form in the HTML file that we reference down here in the render function. So I get it.
Oh, okay, nice. All right. Oh, where were we? We were like editing the car, right? So we were getting the specific car object. So let's do get car, and then let's get that by car ID. Okay, so now we have the specific car object that we're referring to. Okay, so we're editing. Oh, so right here, right, we're displaying the form to the users, but we want it pre-filled out with the car's previous information that we want to edit. So the way we do that is pass in like an instance parameter. Do instance equals whatever the car object that you're referring to, which in this case is just car. Okay, so now we know that the form is going to be pre-filled out. And we pass that in to, yeah, and we pass in the form to the car form once again. So that should show up now. So let's edit Santa Fe / edit. So now it's pre-filled out Santa Fe and Hyundai. The reason why is because we used instance equals car, so it's pre-filled out. So, okay, what if the user actually presses submit? We want to do the same thing that we did before when we were creating by putting in the request.post. And then I think we also pass in the instance parameter, just like we did on line 98. And then we set that as car as well. And then we go through the same checking if form is valid. We save the car to the database using form.save. And finally we redirect. We have the redirect, which would just go to the updated car information. So that should work. So just try that. So we can Santa Fe, submit. Okay, so edited. If we go back to the car list of Hyundai cars, we see that it's edited correctly. So we have the U part of CRUD, and let's finally quickly do the delete part. Whenever you want to create a new component, just go to path first. So deleting a car, we still need the car ID when we want to delete. So this URL is going to look like brand slash whatever the brand ID is, cars slash whatever the car ID is slash delete. So we're gonna put delete at the end. Then make that point to use dot delete car. And then set a name for that so we can access that on other places. Okay, and then delete this. Okay, now let's implement views.delete car. So delete car. Every function view takes a request, and then the parameters for this one is if you go to the URL, we have brand ID and car ID. So let's put those two in. And we'll delete the specific car. So the way we do that is we get the car object itself and then call the dot delete method on that object. So car to delete equals get car and then pass in the car ID. And then we just do car to delete. Dot delete. And then after we're deleting, we just want to return to let's do redirect. We just want to return to the list of all the cars that exist. And the name for that is list cars. We want to return to that. And then list cars, we see in the URL, it takes in the brand ID as a parameter. We want to have brand ID here as well. And set the equal to. And then we should be good. So list of Hyundai cars. We don't like Santa Fe. Do slash delete. It's gone. Santa Fe is gone. Okay, so we implement all the URLs, but not the actual like buttons. So if you want to click on this, and then we want to have like a delete option in here. But yeah. But yeah, that's basically CRUD for nested CRUD for brands and cars.
Yeah, I think you were supposed to, you were gonna put the brand.id over there where you put brand underscore ID twice on the VS Code.
Oh, this? You mean this?
I can see. Yeah, that.
So that is, well, yeah, I could. Well, usually when you want to pass in parameters in redirect, right? I just do two because in case you have another variable. So if you had like another parameter and then set that equal to like something else. So it just so that you can tell the different parameters apart.
Okay.
Any questions? Or should I just end this? Chat.
So in the redirect method right there and delete card. So that first parameter, I'm sorry, the list cars, that's just the method you're calling, right?
That's the URL I'm calling. So list cars, right? It goes to URL patterns, searches the name parameter, which one is list cars, this one is list cars. So it redirects to this page.
Oh, okay. So it's calling the name. Got it. All right. And then you're just also just passing it the ID.
Yeah, passing in the brand ID because that's the appropriate parameter for that one. Right here, brand ID equals brand ID.
Two. Thanks.
Yep. If there are no other questions, I guess I'll end this breakout session. Is that okay with everyone?
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah, that-
Share your thought process.
Yeah. Thank you, Juan.